will now have the January 24th, 2023 Finance and Operations Committee in-person and virtual meeting. The meeting of the Finance and Operations Committee will please come to order. The district posted this evening's agenda to board docs at least 24 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting. Is there a motion to approve that previously posted agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to offer?
There are no amendments.
Thank you, sir. The agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please signify by saying aye opposed and state your name for the record. Those abstaining, please signify by saying aye abstain and state your name for the record. The motion carried. I will now turn over the Finance and Operations Committee meeting to my co-chair, Director War Savage.
Thank you very much, President Brown. Mr. Rogers, would you mind reviewing the only agenda item that we have up for bid this evening, and we can go right into the presentation if you'd be so kind.
Sure. Tonight we have a staffing update, which is informational. Dr. Council and Ms. Simpson will provide an annual update on the district staffing data for the 22-23 school year. The staffing presentation will highlight national, state, and district hiring trends, and the presentation will also include employee attrition rates, new hire data, employee demographic data, recruiting efforts, and considerations for the future. So at this time, I'll hand it over to Dr. Council.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening, President Brown, Vice President Fields, Dr. McGarry, board directors, and members of the community. As Mr. Rogers mentioned, joining me here at the table is our Supervisor of Human Resources, Ms. Kamisha Simpson. Ms. Simpson joined the team in July. She served after serving as the principal of St. Gal Elementary School. Prior to that, Ms. Simpson was the lead teacher at Stonehurst Elementary School, and she started her career right here in Upper Darby as a teacher at St. Gal Elementary School. So happy to have you this evening. Board President Brown, it's obvious from the conversation in the first meeting that staffing continues to be one of the top issues impacting districts nationally. What Ms. Simpson and I will present this evening will provide some national trends. We want to take a look at the big picture. Then we want to narrow down to state and local data. And we want to make sure that as we discuss the local data, that we're discussing it in the context of what's happening at the state and the national level. After that, we do want to engage in just a little conversation about our priorities, the priorities of the Office of Human Resources, as well as provide some considerations and some recommendations. So if we can just jump right into slide number one. First, we want to look at the undergraduate enrollment data from a national perspective. Enrollment has continued to decline by 1.1%. If you take a look at the very bottom, you can see how it has declined, the total there of a 1.1% decrease. And this is data from the fall of 22. So it's relevant, it's up-to-date data. The decline has slowed to pre-pandemic rates according to research done by the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center. Undergraduate enrollment declines last fall are evident across all sectors, especially among four-year institutions, with a drop of 1.6% at public four-year colleges and universities, and approximately a 1% decrease at private nonprofits. And private for-profits, they fared the worst with a 2.5% decline in the fall term. Declines at community colleges have slowed, with only a 4% enrollment loss compared to 2021, driven by 11.5% jump in dual enrolled high school students. So our community colleges have benefited from the increase in students enrolling in dual enrollment programs. Again, a 1.1% decline in undergraduate enrollment compared to last year. So based on the research that we found, there is no expectation of a quick recovery as it relates to undergraduate enrollment overall. As we focus in on data pertaining to enrollment in education programs nationally. So now we're talking about the education programs specifically. The data from the U.S. Department of Education shows enrollment and completion levels from 2008 to 2020. We don't have data yet to really give us enough information about last year, enrollment last year data, but what we do know is that there was a sharp decline in undergraduate enrollments in education programs from 2009 to 2014. If you take a look at the blue line, that's what that information, the blue line, is showing you. Enrollments in education programs begin to level off between 17 to 20, 2017 to 2020. The number of students completing teacher preparation programs have also declined significantly, as indicated by the orange line. So on one hand, we have a decrease in the number of students enrolling in teacher prep programs, and on the other hand, we see that we have a decrease in the number of students graduating once they enrolled in college. So if you take both of them together, what we see, both of these factors have contributed to the crisis that we are faced with today. Looking at data from the Commonwealth, let's talk a little bit about the state data here. The Pennsylvania State of Education report was developed in 2022 by the PSBA, the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, in partnership with PASA, the Pennsylvania Association of School Administrators. The survey that was done took a look at 275 school districts, 55% response rate. What we can see from the data on the screen is that almost every district that responded to the survey is experiencing a shortage in substitute teachers. That's the column all the way there to the left, followed by instructional aides, transportation personnel, and full-time teachers. Other areas of concern include nurses, psychologists, social workers, support staff, and counselors. In our district, what we consider hard to fill, all these positions are what we consider hard to fill positions. However, what you see here is that the impact of staffing shortages in many areas are felt across the state, not just here in the Upper Darby School District. Dr. Fuller, he represents the Center for Evaluation and Education Policy Analysis at Penn State. He put out a report in the fall of 2022, again, relevant information. He titled it the Pennsylvania Teacher Staffing Challenges. In this report, he highlighted data comparing the number of newly certified teachers to the number of teaching positions filled by individuals with an emergency permit. Now, I've shared in the past and in some of my previous updates the steady decrease in the number of newly certified teachers. If you follow that orange line there on the screen, you will see that the decrease over 10 years ranged from more than 15,000 to over 5,000 certifications. A difference of 9,591 certifications over 10 years. And again, that's the issuance of new certifications by the state. What's just as concerning is looking at the blue line. There has been an increase of more than 5,000 positions that could not be filled by a properly certified teacher from 2011 to 21. So based on the data, for the first time in the history of the Commonwealth, and this is important because of the relevance of it, that for the first time in the history of the Commonwealth, the number of newly certified teachers was less than the number of teaching positions filled by teachers on emergency permits. In other words, the state has issued more emergency permits than it has new teacher permits. Now, we can pause on that and have a great discussion about it, but again, this is relevant data and something that has never really happened here in the Commonwealth. When we talk about permits, we're talking about type 1 permits that are requested for positions that exceed 20 consecutive days in a single assignment. The subject area most impacted or affected by an increase in emergency permits at the state level are computer science, ELL, special ed, and foreign language. Just to mention, here in our district, we currently have applied for 37 emergency certifications. So far this year, a number that Tracy Hankson, the secretary to the superintendent, can definitely attest to, as she handles all the emergency certifications here in the district. But we see that this number continues to increase every year. So we've also experienced a decline overall in the number of students enrolled in Pennsylvania teacher prep programs from 2009 and to 2021. That decline has been very concerning as it relates to students of color entering college programs for education. It is encouraging to know that there has been a slight increase in the number of students enrolled in Pennsylvania teacher prep programs, which includes students of color. So if you can see that line, the red line there, we see just a slight increase. Teacher preparation programs, which include students students of color. So a huge decrease over the past 9 years, and that's what, we're really focusing on, the huge decrease that we're seeing. So while we may see a slight increase, over the past 10 years, it's just been, it's been very concerning, the change over time. So as you can see at the bottom, the acronyms are listed at the bottom: American Indian and Alaskan Native, AAPI, representing Asian American Pacific Islander. So again, you see the data of enrollees based on race. Take a look at these two pie charts here on the screen. Looking at the first pie chart, nearly every school leader responding to the survey reported that teachers, administrators, and other staff felt burnt out as a result of dealing with the pandemic. This year at the state level, close to 70% of school leaders reported that they expect to see an increase in the number of resignations and retirements. February 5th will be telling for us here in the school district. That's when our teachers will have to submit their resignations in order to receive that incentive. So we'll have those numbers soon. But that number, as you can see, close to 70%. Increase, or close to 70%, that number has jumped from 50% in the previous year. So I just want to take a moment to recognize the efforts of our support staff, instructional staff, and school leaders as they continue to navigate the impact, the effects of the pandemic here throughout our community and here in the district. So we had an opportunity just to look at some national data and some state data as well. I just want to turn it over to Ms. Simpson and have her share a little bit of our district data.
Good evening. The analytical data presented on this slide highlights our district's employee attrition rates from 2019. This data was retrieved from our applicant tracking software, TalentEd. The quantity of new hires has varied since 2019. During the 2020 to 2021 school year, the total of professional new hires significantly decreased from the prior year and the year after. As we reflect on the 2020 to 2021 school year, we recognize the pandemic and work from home options may have significantly contributed to lower attrition rates. As displayed on the screen, this current school year, we have hired 140 new hires. This number reflects professional Upper Darby Education Association members acquired from July 1st, 2022 to January 11th, 2023. 14.5% of our professional employee positions were vacated and filled with new members of the organization to date. That was 14.5%. This data confirms this school year we continue to exceed the total of professional new hires welcome to the Upper Darby family from 2019, and we still have 6 months to go. As a department, we will continue to analyze this data to help us identify key indicators of areas of improvement. We will continue to develop ways to reduce high rates of professional employee turnover and improve retention rates. We seek to uncover the potential root causes of attrition and dig deeper beyond the numbers to maintain a healthy, happy, and productive workforce. As shown on the next slide, we have currently 964 professional educators that are serving our students, families, and local community. At this time, we have 96% of our professional positions occupied, and our relentless administrators continue on the journey to fill all positions despite national, state, and local personnel shortages. It is important to note, despite our efforts, special education, mathematics, and English language learner instructional positions continue to be hard to fill areas, especially in secondary education. Within our district, Beverly Hills Middle School and Upper Darby High School continue to experience the highest rate of staffing vacancies. However, I would be remiss if I did not state our exceptional leaders and dedicated support and instructional staff continue to work to overcome these barriers. As we continue to review this slide, we can see that our district's past and present teacher absentee data It is important to note during the 2020 to 2021 school year, our professional educators worked from home and provided remote instruction for a portion of the year. This may have attributed to the significantly low rate of teacher absences and substitute requests during the 2020 to 2021 school year. It appears our teacher absentee figures for this school year are going to be aligned with the figures from last school year. Please keep in mind the figures for the 2022 to 2023 school year capture absences and requests from August 2022, August 23rd, the first teacher day, to January 13th, 2023. The next slide shares information about our professional employees. I want to highlight that 46% of our professional personnel have their master's degree, and an additional 27% have a master's plus additional credits, plus 15, 30, or 60 credits. The following institutions listed on the screen were identified by applicants through our Talent Ed applicant tracking system. These institutions listed were self-selected by candidates as undergraduate and graduate colleges and universities they attended. The top 5 undergraduate institutions identified are Westchester University, Temple University, Pennsylvania State University, Cabrini University, and St. Joseph's University. The top 5 graduate institutions identified are St. Joseph's University, Cabrini University, Westchester University, Temple University, and Widener University. These findings have informed our selection in participating in career fairs locally and out of state. Dr. Council will now continue to share information about professional members we have recently welcomed to the Upper Darby family.
Thanks, Ms. Simpson. So between July 1 of 2022 and January 11th of this current year, the Office of Human Resources have onboarded approximately 359 applicants. 359 applicants. Again, those include athletic coaches, bus drivers, maintenance workers, clerical and office staff, the total number. So I don't want to bypass that. I want to just make sure I just take a moment to say thank you to everyone who takes part in the onboarding process, from the HR office to the business office, to all of our administrators. So thank you so much. But 359 applicants, and as you look at the chart there, you can see most of the hires take place over the summer in the months of July and August, September, start to wean off in October, November. But 359, so over the summer, it's a quite busy summer in our office. The chart on the screen represents the demographic data of our new hires. We recognize that we do not always self-select, or our candidates do not always self-select their demographic identifiers on their application. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared that our staff overall, the demographic data for our overall staff, American Indian and Alaskan Native represents less than 1% of our staff. Asian American Pacific Islanders, 3%. Black or African American represent 17% of our staff, white 81%. We have 67% females working in the organization, and 33% of our employees are males. Taking a look at this screen here, our targeted outcomes and some recommendations. We know that our ability to meet the staffing needs of our school is going to be impacted by several factors that we mentioned earlier, those national issues as well as state issues. But our target outcomes and priorities have to include continuing to prioritize and run courses that are required for graduation. It's important for us to make sure that our students understand and parents understand that offering courses above graduation requirements require additional staff at a time when the pool of candidates have declined. We want to make sure that we're growing our own teachers and administrators. We want to invest in teacher apprenticeships, as well as making sure that our support staff have opportunities to become teachers, gain certifications. A conversation that we've had over the past week, thanks to some great ideas that came out of the business office, thanks Mr. Rogers, Dr. McGarry, some information that we'll be sharing in the next, in not too far distance. We want to make sure that we're expanding our alternative certification programs as well. We've looked into increasing our pool of teacher candidates as it relates to using international applicants. So we are looking in that direction as well. Offer electives based on staff availability at the high school and increase our dual enrollment opportunities as we have done that we mentioned earlier as well. Our higher institution partnerships, we currently have partnerships with Westchester, Cabrini, St. Joe's, partnerships which allow us to have opportunities to go up to the classes and speak to some of the graduating teachers as well as support our current employees financially or providing discounts to our current employees. We currently have a collaboration with the DCIU Future Educators Initiative. We want to make sure that through our Educators Rising program, a professional field experience, that we are providing financial opportunities for our students to go to college, to matriculate into college without experiencing a lot of debt, with the expectation that they'll come back and teach in our district. Job fairs is listed. We'll continue to do that, as well as expand our platforms, our ability to reach out to candidates and those interested in working here in the district. I also want to mention that over the past year, and thank you so much to our school board, through our teachers contract, and it's our hopes that through the contract with our support staff that we are currently negotiating or bargaining, that we were able to increase the base pay and the benefits, reduce time it takes for our teachers to reach that career level of pay, compensate educators when they take on new responsibilities, implement a retention bonus, and continue with our tuition reimbursement program. So again, thank you to the board for all the work that you've done in our retention efforts as well. So with that said, I guess in summary for me, I just want to make sure that it's understood that the reduced supply of prospective educators and support staff has become too small to meet the demand for many school districts throughout the state. We will continue to be creative in our approach as we pursue 100% fill rates each year. With that being said, we'll take any questions, any comments you may have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Council. Before we take it around the board, I did have a quick comment or question. I'm not sure who would be able to answer this. I was looking at the slide, which number is this? Number 10. And I'm looking at the subsection that addresses teacher absences and how it's definitely escalated year after year. Now, I want to point out to the public, I'm sure many of us are aware, life happens all the time, so there's a wide variety of reasons why one would have to take off personal time. My question is HR or can HR qualify the reasons behind those absences and assuming that information exists, of those reasons, how many of them are factors that the district can directly affect in some kind of constructive, positive way, and are they inclined to share with the public the ways that we help to positively support teachers who might have an absentee challenge, for lack of better ways of explaining it?
Sure. So I'll jump in, and Dr. McGarry, if you want to jump in, it's fine. So number one, we have to be careful because teachers have the contractual right to take personal leave, and we don't want to discourage that when it's needed. One of the reasons that we can address as a district is the level of stress that our teachers are under. If we are able to provide an optimal environment, learning environment, and which will create less stress, then maybe our teachers wouldn't take as much time off. I'm not sure if that is always the case, but we know that could contribute to teachers taking time off. But they do have a contractual right to take time off. I think what was just as concerning to me and to us is the inability to cover the classes once our teachers are out. So substitutes, the decline in the number of substitutes that's available is very concerning, number one. And then also the amount of learning that's lost is concerning to us as well.
Thank you very much for that answer, and I just want to add that it's an overlying theme for this evening that we have to continually walk and chew gum and then do headstands and backflips at the same time while being able to address everything else. There's not enough time in a day to be able to isolate one thing and just focus on it and fix it before moving on to everything else. And that just speaks to how just multifaceted everyone working here is trying to address all those things.
I wanted to, if I can, Board Member War Savage, I don't think Kamisha, Dr. Council, or the administrators that are here are giving themselves enough credit for, I think, the second part of what I heard in your question, which is, what are we doing? How much responsibility do we have? That's my word, not yours. But I think you said, can we curtail some of this or help some of this? So what we've done that I think in some ways has frustrated maybe others surrounding us is we're, as Kamisha said very well, in some of the data, there were some trends that we saw that some flexibility was good for families and good for our teachers, right? And so what we've done here in the school district, and I think the board should be aware of this, and I know that you are, is that we are working with our families, our teachers, and saying, if you can work, if you've got something going on with your child or something at home, but you could still teach your classes, we're working with our teachers and we're letting them remote into the classroom for a consistent education from home, and we're shifting somebody else to be in the classroom with the kids. We'll voucher that teacher or that support staff. And then the teacher who may have to be home because it might be taking care of somebody, if they feel they can still deliver the instruction, they just can't be there for that day. We've leveraged, thanks to this board, which was, I think, very cutting edge, and it still is at this time. We are allowing the teacher to remote into the classroom to provide some virtual instruction so that they may not have to take some of that sick time for specific reasons. Now, we're working on both of those areas. It's more complicated, obviously, with a kindergarten and a first grade teacher, but we're working on that. The other thing that the school board adopted last year in their school calendar, and as I had mentioned during the calendar conversation, because our teachers are taking on so much more time covering classes, where they had never had before. If you go back to those graphs that were on there in 2007, 2008, there were subs, so that teacher could get their prep time. We could do data meetings appropriately during the school day. We are now in a situation where we have to get creative and maybe have to add some half days to the school year. We heard from our teaching staff. This past year, thanks to this board, over the summer, after meeting with our teachers, we added 3 additional half days to give them some chance to grade, to get report cards ready. And we may come back to the table, given the teacher shortage, to recognize that our teachers might need some time during the week to say, okay, students, we've done a good enough job prepping asynchronous work. We're going to let you work on this, but our teachers need some time to prep, to catch up and grade and catch their breath. The reality is there's a tremendous amount of pressure on a classroom teacher, as you said. Same thing on administrators. The administrators in this district do not take days off for sickness and mental health reasons that they need, and I'm worried about the impact that that has across the board. The amount of effort that goes into 359 positions speaks to not only Kamisha and John, but Judy McLaughlin, Ebony Sins, Irene Smith, Lorraine. There's so many people, and then every principal's interviewing, Marvin Lee for transportation. There's so many folks, principals, so much time and effort going into this every single day, that what we can do to contribute to it is, okay, what do we have control over? And I'm glad that you brought that up. We may have to be more creative, leverage our technology for certain ways, not all the time, to recognize that we can do some things still well, to give our folks a chance to reset, instead of saying that we have to keep going about it the same exact way every single day. And I think that's a positive, that this administration, John loves to push the envelope, and he loves to get excited to give people things. It's one of his happiest things to do. There's a lot of conversations that the HR office, the principals, and UDASA here in the school district are doing to be creative. We are just coming out of middle school meetings with middle school teachers. The reason why you haven't heard about a middle school schedule conversation yet, you heard about high school and elementary school, is that Mrs. Simone and the team are working and meeting with middle school teachers to say, what can we do for you to help you? And so soon there'll be a conversation about middle school teachers for retention and support that you've heard at the high school and the middle school. There are some things we can control. Are there going to be pressure points with some of those decisions? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, the folks that are in front of kids in these classrooms, and I think that's your point, there's a lot that goes into it. And then having to go home and take care of your own kids and do your own homework, there's just a lot that goes into that. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And John and Kamisha deserve a lot of credit for what they do and they deal with every single day to negotiate with me and with all of us to see how we can meet the needs of our staff. They are literally negotiations that take place.
Thank you very much, Dr. McGarry. Any other feedback or concerns from board members? All right, seeing none, we can go right into public comment. Oh, yeah, Dr. McGarry, yes.
One comment. I'm a member of a couple superintendents groups. One of the superintendents groups that I'm a member is the PLUS Caucus of Urban Superintendents, who are facing this probably more than any other school district. School district superintendents from Reading, Norristown, Pottstown, all western part of the Pennsylvania, where, you know, I'm friends with folks who have maybe 100 teachers. More than 50% of their staff, or 40% of their staff, are emergency certified teachers. So that slide that Dr. Council presented is really amazing. That now in many ways, school districts are and pulling a human being who has a college degree, but we beg to become a teacher in a classroom, which is not always the easiest thing. People think teaching is, you know, easy. It's very difficult. That we're outpacing those who went to school to be a teacher, coming out with a certification. More people are being pulled into classrooms that never went to school to be a teacher. So much so that in the members of the Urban Superintendents Caucus that I'm a part of, some schools have almost 50%, some districts, of the teachers in their school district being emergency certified teachers. Emergency certified folks. That at the same time, just to be clear, and Dr. Council and Kamisha can probably do a better job than I can. Those teachers have to earn 6 to 9 credits a year, correct? Each year. So they're teaching, and they have to go back to school under the state law to take 6 to 9 credits to stay eligible to be emergency certified on a salary when they're putting the money out. And some of these school districts do not have tuition reimbursement like Upper Darby School District does. So the things that need to change from this board, if we can, based on this presentation, becoming a teacher should be important. It should be rigorous, but they should be compensated. There's a couple articles that are coming out now that are going to universities, no offense to universities, and they're saying, if someone's going to go to your university and get a degree in education, the money they're putting out, will they earn that investment back? And the reality is, when you become one of us educators, it's hard to earn that money back for what you've put out for that degree. So we have been meeting creatively here, Dr. Council, Mr. Rogers, and Mr. Marshallak and I, going through our staffing. We're going to give you a historical review of staffing, what we once had and where we are today. We're still going to make some asks this budget season. I'm sorry. But we're also going to share to you, hopefully, we're going to have some meetings with the community colleges and local universities, how we can grow our own differently. And that may be us investing in our own kids graduating now, starting in junior year, or others, getting involved in classrooms sooner, paying them sooner, and then paying for them to become teachers, that we grow our own that way. We're going to be working out some of those details. We'll be bringing that forward to you as a creative solution, working our way through the system to do that. That should also diversify the pie charts that we're seeing today, because as you can see in this presentation, I know Ms. Mitchell, you know this, and Board President Brown, you hear about this all the time. Folks are saying diversify, 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 as if there are hundreds and thousands of diverse candidates. There aren't. My other concern is every single school district is now racing to make orange juice. I used this analogy the other day, right? And someone's going to buy up all the oranges. And I've gone to Penn and other universities saying someone bigger than us has to go out there and worry about solving this problem, legislators, state officials, because then what's happening now is becomes survival of the fittest. Each school district's going to try to compete against each other to grab from a very limited pool of qualified people, and then it becomes a race. One day it's $165 for a substitute, then it's $200, then it's $210, then it's $220. The flexible days, it becomes this changing circumstances where we're all competing for the same pool with not the same resources, much like state testing, much like what we're facing now with our facilities that you heard about. The same problems, yet I don't feel like, outside of what this school board is doing or individual superintendents, others are looking at a way to solve it. It becomes, let's celebrate your creative way to solve a much bigger issue, instead of we've all these smart people in these smart universities who should be pulling together and saying, we're going to work toward this bigger plan. What's the bigger plan? Making it more affordable, making it more sense to be an educator, encouraging it, respecting teachers, protecting what they do. That is not happening, and it started 10 to 15 years ago, as you can see in the presentation that John and Kamisha put together, which is awesome. This started before COVID. COVID just opened people's eyes up to, I can make a lot of money working at home without the same pressures. That exposed people to wanting to get out of this profession. And then when they've come back into it, student behaviors at our all-time high. Just remember, we were state testing during a pandemic. So superintendents are under pressure. Pay attention to what's going on, the pressure on superintendents, people leaving the profession, getting blamed for certain circumstances. It's going to take a collective effort to get to where we are. The volume of work that's coming out of HR, when you look at this presentation, when you guys put this together, it's a lot of people coming in and out every day. So compliments to John, you, Kamisha, the team that's there, all the principals, assistant principals, cabinet. It's a full team effort to onboard people in this school district. And it's like 24 hours, 7 days a week. Right. So I can't thank the team enough, too, in your office that I know takes a lot of heat from us about getting people in.
No problem. Thank you.
A robust and ongoing conversation indeed. Now we will take public comment. The priority is for people who are physically present. If you wouldn't mind announcing your name, your address, and the specific agenda item, of which there's only one, that you would like to comment on, we will take you at this time. All righty. Ms. Buford, do we happen to have anyone who made virtual comment or commentary on the telephone?
No, sir, we do not.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Rogers, would you mind recapping our agenda item for this evening?
Sure. So tonight we obviously had one agenda item for the staffing update, which was informational, and the presentation was provided by Dr. Council and Ms. Simpson, where they provided a district staffing update, included highlights of the national, state, and district hiring trends, and again, it was informational.
Thank you very much, and I pass the meeting over back to President Brown.
Thank you, Dr. Warsavage, for running the meeting. A motion is in order for the adjournment of the Finance and Operations Committee meeting. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.